Green's black, baby. The dress. So we tried to do the dress yesterday, and what that ended up being was a very nice real-time lesson on how to do the grid. If you'll check the description below, links in the chat, you'll see a link to the webpage for this project. The full video on how to grid, an explanation on how to do a traceable, a mini book of written out steps, traceables, grids, references, and a step-by-step mini graphic that you can pin on Pinterest is all there for free for you to go check out. It's fantastic. So what ended up being a little bit of a moment yesterday has ended up being a blessing for you, the student. Now, I never expect anybody to know anything. So those extra resources will often go into very expanded explanations of concepts like terms, techniques, things that you can do as a beginner if you understood, you know, how they were done or what we were referring to. So if you do think you might want that extra help because you're really excited about doing this painting, go ahead and print out that free mini book, print out that the infographic step-by-step. It's 9 steps in this painting. Put up step 1, John.
Okay.
Step 1 was gridding and drawing this on. Now there's a couple ways you can get this on. You can use the traceable transfer method. You can use the gridding method where you're learning how to draw. You can freehand and you can project. Again, in the mini book are explanations on how to do those different techniques, and they're explained like at the beginning level. This is step 1. We painted the canvas black. We let it dry. We drew this on. And now let's talk about the materials for today's painting.
Okay.
16 by 20 surface, ready to go. The colors for today are Quinacridone Magenta. We're going to use probably very little of this. It's here for just small elements of the painting. Cad Yellow Medium, Naples Yellow Light or Light Naples Yellow, either way that it's put. Phthalo Green, Ultramarine Blue, Cadmium Red, Mars Black, Titanium White, and Burnt Sienna. This year, for the year, I have a set palette of colors. This is in that set palette. It's the same one I do for Acrylic April. That way you guys can just buy the art materials and not have to worry about like what's in each show. You just have the basic studio and you'll be ready to do any of the 200 projects from this year. If you'd like to have 200 free art lessons, hit the subscribe button because I've now called it and claimed it and said I'm doing it. So that should actually be pretty fun. On the Naples Yellow Light, again, I know I'm going to say the mini book a lot, but in the mini book is an explanation. And I wrote a whole blog about this color. You can get this color from $3 to up to $13. So there's a big price range, lots of brands, but I make it simple and give you shortcuts of like, because they all name it something different and they all have a different relationship to it. I just tell you who has it, what it's called, and where you can get it, just to make it easier, and also how you can mix it with craft paint. Let's put these aside because we're going to be starting out here in a second. John, will you find the infographic for step 2?
I have it.
You have it? He has it. So we're going to start out with a little of our titanium white, squeezing that right out of the tube. I'm going to use my Naples Yellow Light. And again, please take advantage of those free resources. They make weird, complicated things simple. And we like that, making weird, complicated things simple. That's the whole point. Art easy and accessible for everyone. Now, this is a 3-hoop painting, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it. It should just help you manage your expectations. It might take a little longer. There might be a few more techniques in it, and you might need to lean on some of those extra resources to get a successful, happy result that you're loving. But my whole thing is making sure beginners can paint. So this is that space. How you doing, babe?
Good.
On the mic is my husband, John, who usually gets introduced at the beginning. But he didn't turn my he got not introduced because none of my stuff was on. No, it's not. That's not why that. If you're new here, that is not why that happened. I'm just teasing him because he's had a long day.
The TV was.
He shoveled a driveway already today before getting our YouTube show ready. Are you ready? And we've step 2'd, right?
We've step 2'd.
Okay, we're going to get a bright brush. I'm going to grab just this little short handle number 20 Ruby Satin Bright.
Yeah.
You could grab, you're going to notice real quick, number 16 long handle Bright.
Yeah.
I'm just showing you different ones that would work so that you can be like, what is going on with these sizes? This is a number 8 Bright. Any of these, you can see they're all kind of pretty close in size, would work. What does that tell you? There's no standardized sizing in brushes. That's what you've learned today. We're going to get this wet with just a smidge of water. I've got lots of clean water here. I'm going to load up with a little bit of white and a little bit of my Naples Yellow light. And it's going to give me kind of this off-white color. I'm going to do the white stripes first in step 2. What I found is that if you anchor the white first, you can easily get the black in, and it just makes it much more fun. If you get the corset in right away, the rest of the painting kind of falls together. So sometimes it's about setting out that first step, isn't it?
I don't know.
You do know. You've been here so long. You're so funny. In private, he's like, no, I can do it. I know all this stuff now. He is. In private, he is all the time. No, I know it. But he's very sweet here. All right, so I'm going to come on the other side of the black stripe. You can use your reference if you're not really sure about how these will shake out, okay? That's what references are for, and that's what step references are for. If you're following along with the mini book or the step-by-step, we're on step 2 right here. 2. This is just that first coat. We actually come in and refine the corset later. So you're just capturing the bit that you need to have for the painting to happen. Okay. Super simple, dimple. The other thing that we're going to do on this background step is this really cool background that gets rid of our grid. But right now we want to get this in first. I love the stripes on this dress corset. Just really made it work for me.
They're kind of Harlequin.
They're very much so. And you can see it was a big deal for her to wear it. This is from Singer Sargent's Mrs. Wilton's painting, which is like this massive full-size portrait. I'm going to be real honest. I was not that into the rest of Mrs. Wilton.
But this is interesting.
But I really like this bit. So that's what we're painting. If you're like, what happened there? That's what happened.
I just cropped the image.
I did. I cropped it. I cropped it hard.
This
Works out well.
Editing.
Sometimes you got to edit. Now I'm going to put out a little bit of my burnt sienna. This is a reddish brown color. All right. So if you look at these colors, even if you're painting with like a kit, like say maybe somebody gave you a kit of 48 paints. I know somebody right now at Christmas got one of those, right? You want a yellow that's a little bit like reminds you of a lemon, not bright like the sun, like a little bit of green and soft. You want your brightest white. This is Mars black, but you could use lamp black or another black. Burnt sienna, you want a brown in your kit that is kind of reddish brown. You know, if you have the exact color name matches, that's awesome. But believe it or not, in color, it's more important what the kind of hue and temperament of the paint is than anything else value after that. So let's black up these stripes just to clean them up a bit. And again, keep in mind, we're going to come back and really get into this corset later. So you're okay. This not being the most precious painting part that you've ever done.
Yeah.
Or we like to say painterly or roughed in. Sometimes I'll come up from the bottom. But with paint, you just got to get a little bit of paint on. Just no matter what you do, you just got to kind of have a little bit of paint. Now, right here, I'm going to come in and kind of put in some deep gray. This is early days, right? Barely in. Early days. And you can come back with a little bit of your, sort of striping to kind of talk about it, but we just want to be very general at this stage. We'll get into it much more specifically later. We're just saying, oh, hey, some stuff happened here. See how it's like in shadow? So we're just saying, oh, there's some things there. Hint. The hint. The hint, the hint, the hint. Okay. Rest of this background. Now, whenever you use the chalk tools, you can generally remove it with a little bit of water and a brush, right? So we're using the credit color pastel pencils, but sometimes you still have some gritting left. Wonderfully, our background actually had a whole nother layer to do of burnt sienna and Mars black.
Mm-hmm.
So on top of being able to remove something with just a damp brush, we're also kind of removing the grid with a very diffused painterly background of brown and black. A little bit of that. I'm not reading chat yet. I will get to a point at the end of step 2 where I take some questions from chat before we move on to 3.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go through and look through. John will feed me some. We'll do something. You want to just paint this till your grid is gone, or your any of your out exterior messes, or if you just freehanded it one line and done.
This is all still step 2.
This is all still step 2. This is a big painting.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't do it on a teeny tiny canvas, and we're, you know, replicating a pretty famous work of art. So we didn't take on a small biz here. We're being brave. And we're doing artwork we would want to have in our home.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important.
Now, would chalk pastels work for gridding?
Yes, just not oil pastels.
Mm.
Don't use oil pastels or oil pencils. You want something that is water soluble and removable. I like doing this little background. It's sort of peaceful.
Mm.
Now, while we're doing this background, I'm going to suggest that we take a deep breath in and let that out. Let that deep breath out.
That's an important part of breathing.
Yeah, and we're going to just sort of pull in our calm and start to breathe out those worries that we had from the week. It's important to breathe in art. Believe it or not, you're almost in a meditative state when you paint. And breathing will be a big element. Of how you handle that.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I will remind you to just breathe. Breathe in. Breathe out. This is paint. It will dry. When it's dry, you can paint over it. So even if something goes awry, don't have a big reaction. Have a small reaction. Like having, oh, I should fix that. Don't be like, oh no, it's over. Because that's very stressful to your body and it doesn't need that. Now right here, I want to add some little loose marks that say there's a bit of a bustle in the background, but it's in the dark so you can barely see it. To do that, I'm going to not even rinse my brush. I'm going to grab some of my brown and a little of my Naples Yellow. And we're going to come right here with this brush. We're going to make some loose little marks. Look at those. They're in the distance. They're diffused. They're so out of focus. The bustle's a big thing here on her, so we should see some of it, but...
What's a bustle?
What do you mean, what's a bustle? Really? For real? Did you ask me that?
You were like, that's the thing on the back, right?
I gave my husband this grief because we did historical reenactment, so he darn well knows what a bustle is. But if you're asking, it's a historic type of garmentry that built out a full silhouette on the posterior of a woman. Generally built up with fabric and sometimes boning underwire armature. It's quite difficult to wear, but accurate to the time period when this painting was done.
That's just the back part of the dress.
That's a back part of the dress. It's like a big bottom.
Like a train.
Bit like a train. It's like a big puffy bit, and it comes out behind, and we see just a little bit of it. It is there, but we're not seeing it well because it's in this very dramatic lighting. Okay, so do we have some, besides what's a bustle, because we have just come to the end of step 2 before we hit step 3. Do we have any questions to answer?
Let's see here. They were asking about the store earlier.
Oh, the store is open.
But it seems to be low on supplies, so I'll be over tomorrow making...
Again?
Apparently
Dude,
so.
All right, just watch that store because we put the soap up and then the soap is gone. And then we put the soap up and the soap is gone.
We're making soap tomorrow.
Right, and there's kits, there's cups, there's some ornaments, there's some mouse pads. Actually, if you watch, she's going to probably replace Santa's sleigh in our mouse pad catalog pretty soon, isn't she?
Yeah, probably.
You know, Santa's sleigh will be retired.
For a bit, yeah.
For a bit, till next year. Then maybe he'll come back, maybe he won't. I can't really say.
Or maybe there'll be a new sleigh.
We're not being tricksy with you, we just don't really have a plan.
Maybe he'll get a Corvette next year.
We're not being Ferengi, we're being kind of hobbity.
Yeah, I would say we're far more in the Radagast camp of
than the Gandalf camp.
We're gonna get that.
That's right. We're super Radagast. John's like, don't combo up science fiction stuff. It's not cool. I'm like, I'm mix and match all my science fiction because it's all one universe for me. But obviously, for its creators, it's
there was
not.
only one trilogy.
Oh, and it's all but one trilogy? It's one trilogy to rule them all, right. One trilogy to bind them. One trilogy to sue them all and in the copyright find them.
Well, see, previously...
Sorry, I'm fine. Do you have a question? We're just chatting. Do you have a question? Read some chat.
I read out of Ultramarine Blue. What should I do?
If you don't have Ultramarine Blue and... You could do cerulean, you could do cyan, or you could do phthalo pretty well. You could do Prussian if you have that in. Generally, when I just am out of a blue, I switch it. Just keep in mind that if you switch to Phthalo Green Blue, blue shade, it's going to be a little more turquoise than red. So there'll be kind of a turquoise cast to your blues, and your purples may be deeper and a little more grayed out. But on this painting, it won't impact it. That's a good question.
All right.
Yeah, use up what you got. Don't even, it's just, I mean, I know we should be serious about it, but
okay.
It's art.
Non-serious question. Who makes your hair dye? Where'd you get your shirt?
Torrid. It's online only on this particular shirt. They bring it back in. I think it's back in stock. Only because I don't represent them. They're not sponsors. I just go to their website a lot. My hair dye is a combination. I use the Ion Gentle cream bleach to lift, just my roots. And then I use the Viral shampoo, light pink for the base color. And then I use the Viral shampoo hot pink for the tips.
Okay.
That way I can just shampoo my hair and I don't have fading.
That was a step 2 conclusion with some fashion advice by
Fashion
the
advice
Sherpa.
from the Sherpa. All right. So, shall we step 3, sir?
Step 3?
3. Leave that up for a second so I can find it again. I'm going to add some skin tone colors. Now, skin tones, I bet all of you are like, oh no, skin tones. I have a whole video on how to mix skin tones with hard primaries.
Yeah.
Which are actually Cad Red, Cad Yellow, and Phthalo Blue.
Step 3 is blocking everything.
Right? We're blocking it in, but we're blocking in skin tones.
Oh,
so
no,
that's why
mean,
it's a big deal.
No, I mean the lower thirds is blocking the...
Oh, okay.
Put it away.
Put it away. So,
Go away.
Do we want to go over the colors again, or did they see it?
I don't know. You can go over it again.
Let's go over it again.
All right.
So right now for step 3, we have out some burnt sienna, which we'll use more of, Mars Black, Titanium White, Naples Yellow, Cad Red Medium, and Cad Yellow Medium. And we're going to be roughing in skin tones. On this, what I mean by roughing in, right, all I'm saying is we're going to paint these skin tones, but we're going to do so loosely. We're going to get to the blending on the second step. I'm going to get a big brush. I want a nice big brush to paint in. I guess I will paint in, say, cat's tongue, maybe?
That's up to you. I'm not
All right.
painting.
So base skin tone, I'm going to take a little of my Cad Red and some of my Cad Yellow. And adding Cad Yellow. So we just sort of get there, a little of our burnt sienna. And you can see as we go, we start to get into those colors. Now, her skin is much more yellow than you'd think. Right? So we will be fighting that. Not really fighting it. We'll be playing with that. binding in here. And again, if you haven't mixed a lot with these skin tones, you're going to want to want more yellow than that. So we'll come here and we're just going to put those basic values on. Adam's Family values, my friend. Adam's Family values. You can also get your Naples Yellow involved. It works real well on skin tones. There, we can mix everybody's skin tones with these base colors on this base color palette. Light and dark skin tone.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's this. Sabrina has a good question. It's a this definitely falls into that studio like knowledge.
Okay.
It involves the all-powerful and dangerous crimper.
She wants to know how to crimp her tubes or what happened to my tubes.
Sabrina says, I noticed the Sherpa used a crimper on her paint tubes. I used one, and it made a hole in mine.
Okay, I only use the Gill Mechanical Company's crimper.
Yes. It's a
tube crimper by Gill. It's metal.
We'll show it to you before the end of the show.
I make sure that I sort of hand work my paint to the position that I want it to be on the tube, make sure the cap's on real tight, and then I crimp. I don't squeeze the back of the crimper tight. I squeeze it enough to engage pressure and to rock it forward, and then I roll it up. I suppose I could do a video on how to crimp tubes of paint.
We could do just a single video, like how to not explode a tube of paint
when crimping.
Or you could go for clickbait. How to blow up a tube of paint.
You could do that. I'm going to add a little black into it. Whenever I want to get my skin tone more in the shadow, I can just come get a little black into it. You can see it darkens it right up.
Even more clickbaity. 10 ways you can
explode your tube of paint?
Explode your tube of paint.
Okay, there's a lot of ways to actually explode a tube of paint, so that's a little disturbing.
We're going to get creative in here.
You can see even as I work this back into my Mars black, it does pretty well. And I'm just getting this going here. At the wrist, we definitely want this to be darker. Remember, you can bring your Cad Red even over into your Mars black too. So it's really sort of an interesting painting if you're trying to understand how skin tones happen. How do skin tones happen? And again, guys, we're just roughing it in. So notice I'm not stressing too much on blending. I'm just covering the black canvas with my color. Expect the lion's share of the painting for you to be here in the skin tones.
Tammy has a rant that I'm gonna go jump on her soapbox. And
okay, jump on Tammy's soapbox.
She's like, who are the people who go through the art store and squeeze all of the golden tubes of paint?
I don't know, but Golden's upset at them too if it makes you feel any better.
But all of us are like, would you leave our tubes of paint alone?
So in fine art stores, very often they won't let you do that. They actually are watching you going, don't do that. You got the eyes. But like in Michael's, nobody's there checking to make sure you haven't gone.
And
so
it's probably like, an 8-year-old who's like, ooh, look, a metal tube, squeezy,
squeezy.
Oh,
hope springs eternal that it's an 8-year-old. No, an 8-year-old has a parent saying no.
But it's,
I'm just telling you, an 8-year-old has a parent that says no.
Yeah, there's innocence there where the 8-year-old's like, I don't know any better, and it's just a cool feeling. Whereas, the adult should know better.
The adult does not know better, my friend. The adult does not know better.
All right,
I'm just mixing more of my base.
Tammy.
Thank you, Tammy.
I borrowed your soapbox.
It's a good soapbox, though. Let's make sure there's a little more yellow into this as I come into my white. So coming forward into the hand, we know we've got more of a kind of yellow aspect into the hand. We want enough of the wrist here implied where the thumb is, even though we know we're covering it up. And we know we are, guys. We know we're covering it up. We know we are. John is going to be switching on you kind of like a crazy person, and that is not his fault.
Am I?
Yeah. Well, because of how I am when I paint skin tones. You can make a large mix of the color, but I just find it's just better to kind of get everything sort of in and then work out the little details later.
So I know that you're thinking a lot while you're painting, especially like these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
So can I ask you some questions I kind of think I know?
While I'm thinking real hard?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Why not? Let's see how that goes.
Okay. So you're using all of the same basic colors for her skin, right?
Yes.
And by just using them all over in individual mixes here and there, it makes it more like real skin.
Well, because her skin isn't going to be uniform.
Right.
It just won't be. Skin is, the fingers and the elbows will be a little more red. We have this little kind of thing, not to keep shouting out the write-up, but it is awesome. Talking about look at the elbows and notice that they're red. Look at the fingers and see the value in them. And also the hue, the toning of them.
And that's also why you don't necessarily clean your brush between mixes.
There's no real need at this stage to do that unless I'm not getting these little subtleties as I work. And again, like we mentioned, this is the rough stage. We're not refining our skin tones. We're just working them right now. Well, we'll finish them up in that next stage. We just want to make sure that we've got a bit of it going here. Now, I left a pretty large black area last time. This time I'm going to just go around the hands because even though the flowers will cover that, I do want to have a little more give. So not totally flush to the fingers, but flusher to the fingers. Into the fingers, I'm going to be much more into the red. And even you can get into the Naples Yellow. It's sort of interesting how that gets into a particular skin tone.
So Diane was asking a really good question about what's the best printer for art prints?
That is actually a really good question. I'm going to get into my dark black here.
I'd say it's a super complicated question to answer, but most modern printers do a pretty good job. But if you'll post that up in the Art Sherpa official group, I'll see about getting over there and putting up some thoughts on there for you.
Okay, make sure John does it,
Yep.
Moderation team.
We'll get everybody to harass
He
me.
does not
here
forget
it is.
in his busy day that he promised an answer.
Yeah, but it's easier to put something like that up there.
It's super true, it is.
Than to go back into, well, this printer does this, and that printer has this thing, and the other printer's great, except for ... Tune in to the Art Sherpa official for more.
Now, I may switch to a round brush when I'm getting those fingers again in a second, but sometimes it's just important to get some stuff in. Come here and add some little bit of a shadow right there. Skin tones, light skin tones, are kind of these creams and peaches. This one is really based in a strong coral.
There's a lot of the black showing through. Is that going to be okay on this
That's why
stage?
we do 2 coats.
Gotcha.
That's why we do 2 coats. I actually like the black being under the base. I find it creates a nice, rich canvas to work up from. Play on words there. Mm-hmm. But if your paint is very inexpensive, you may need to paint a very light beige skin tone base to even start the rough skin tone.
Yeah. And you can use the same technique when doing faces.
Yes. This will work for faces.
For faces. Now, we're going to have to get another step up.
But this is being a sweetheart and not being a face. What?
When's our next step?
Not until we get this all in.
Oh, really? Okay. I just want to make sure I'm not
we have a
losing
whole
track.
layer to do. Nope, you have not lost track.
This is all step 3.
Yeah, it's still step 3. I got too much black in there, but I want a very dark shadow color for this part of the arm here. There we go.
Mm.
Just working those reds, yellows, browns, and whites. And then black to tone it.
Now, her skin tone here is very dark relatively to the what it'll finish.
Well, not as much as you'd think.
There's a lot. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. When you're painting skin and shadow, you're not painting skin tone like what you get from the tube. You're painting a shaded area of something that may have a small hue or aspect of the skin tone. So I think that throws a lot of people when they're painting figures, because they're like, they're very literal in that this is flesh tone, so it's flesh tone, instead of what hue is that and how deep is that hue. If you can take a deep breath, blow it out with me, and just say, I'm going to see the value in hue. I'm going to just see how light or dark it is, and I'm going to guess what color it is. I'm going to ask myself these questions. Is it more red? Is it more yellow? Is it more brown? Does it need more black? Should I add more white? And just be asking yourself those colors. And you can hold your brush right up to it and be like, is it, like if you print out the reference, you'd be like, is it more yellow? Is it more white? Is it more black? And just try to really remove your mind and your spirit from the idea that you're painting flesh tones and you're just painting a color, and it's just kind of in these peachy color ranges that you're mixing. Some of them are in deep shadows, some of them are not. And that's not stressful. That's just some weird peach haze.
Mm.
So hopefully that helps a bit. Sometimes it can be real hard, right? To trust what's going on. Trust in the process. Right, so if I'm like, oh, there's a lot more yellow over there, I'll add some more yellow into it. And if I'm like, it should be lighter, and I ask myself, does it need more yellow or does it need more red? Boom. See? I'm not doing skin tones. I am, does it need more yellow?
Mm-hmm.
Does it need more white? Does it need more red? What does it need? Because that's what you've got to, kind of work out as you go. I like my Naples Yellow. It's so pleasant. I can get right into this and see right there.
Do you have a video about loading a brush?
I do have a video about loading a brush. In fact, in this video, if you go into the description, there is a playlist of everything you need to know to start. So like, say you're at a place where you're like, I'm not even sure, top of my head, I'm not even sure how to load a brush. I have a whole playlist for being in that space in your art journey.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't ever got to feel bad about asking that question. Now, just real quick, when we're loading a brush, we tend to get a drop of water. We've got to get into the Goldilocks zone. That's just right. Not too much water, not too little water for what we're doing. And we flip the brush to work it over, which pulls a lot of paint into the belly. Which means that when I paint, I get a very good result with what I'm doing. So you just don't ever feel weird about that if you're like, man, I'm not even sure how to load the brush. Lots of people feel that way. Lots. Everybody started there at one time. You don't come born knowing how to load a brush. So you had to learn it at one point, no matter how skilled the artist is, no matter how much you admire all their work, they still had to learn how to load a brush. They had to learn how to make a mark. We're still on one. I'm letting John know that because sometimes he's like, what step are we on? I'm going to do this sort of dark gray color for the fingertips here. And I'll come back with I'll definitely come back with my round brush to sort of resolve that.
Amethyst Rock was like, "Where's her head?"
Where's her head? Well, on the original painting, I suppose, where she commissioned it. Bless her. Yeah, the original artist did a full portrait of this John Singer Sargent, and really tremendous painter, famous watercolorist and artist. Let's rinse out. And he did this portrait, gorgeous portrait, but honestly, I was not that into the model. So I realized what I loved about the painting, just loved.
I agree with your cropping, by the way. I think
Oh,
this
do
is
you?
totally good.
Yeah, and what I loved about her was this dress, and so I just chose to, I'm getting a lot more yellow onto the space, just wanting to make sure I've got a good base to start from. And again, we're not being perfect here, we're just building up that first layer. Let's just take 2 seconds to pass with a round brush our fingers, making sure we've got, what we want there.
Now, do you have any tips for painting fingertips?
So things that I do to help myself when I'm painting hands is I anchor where my knuckles are, where the bend in my fingers are, and where my knuckles are. And you'll notice that I put those lines in as a guide here and here. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is they're going to taper to the tip. You'll want to paint, your instinct will be to paint more information than probably you should. Mm-hmm. And you're going to want to, I'm going to get some black here. You're going to want to make sure that you don't lose track of where the fingers are going to separate. We will refine this a bit later on, but knowing where it is now will really help us for later. Again, it's step 1, so you're not in too much like, oh no, trouble yet. Not in too much trouble yet. And I'll just be like, what value? And then I want a lighter value, so I'm going to come here just for a second. Sure, I'm talking about a lighter value at the knuckles coming back. Mm-hmm. And again, this is roughed in. This is just so that later, when I'm doing the more refined stuff that I want to do, I'm not like struggling in it. You can see I'm just adding the lighter values, and I let those dark lines be in there. We'll soften them, we'll refine them, but right now they help us find our way through. I think this is far enough to get us through this was step 3, so we need to go on to step 4. We can ask some questions before we move on to step 4.
Oh, really? I'll leave this up while we're there, because you always have trouble finding step 4.
That's true.
Step 4. All right. So while we're questioning for step 4, the step 4 question is, when I draw the picture on the back, let me see. I get blobs when I draw the picture first, then paint around the background. Is that the right way? I'm not understanding.
Well, the blobs are probably coming from an issue of being in your Goldilocks zone on your paint to water mixture, right? So your paint may be too thick. It may not be flowing off the brush smoothly. So you're heavy bodied. Sometimes when we start with heavy body paint, we need to add, depending on the brand, like I would say Sen LEA is a 1-drop brand, whereas Golden is a 2-drop brand. Some brands will ask for more water than others to thin out. And then you also don't want them to be so thin that they're watery. So it's like finding that tuned in space. There isn't a right or wrong with how you paint the painting. There is a series of techniques that you're trying to accomplish, and then you just ask yourself and really try to detach from it, because detaching from this will help you not set a value to your personal worth and the worth of your painting by saying, I'm right, I'm wrong, it's right or it's wrong. But start to go, is this, because this is artist thinking, is this technique working? Am I happy with the result? Or do I want to try a different technique? And just never make it about right or wrong, but just, is it working? Because unless it's a dangerous technique like using a torch on acrylic paint, there isn't really a right or wrong kind of situation going on there.
All right. Now, before we move on to the full four.
To the full four.
What art style would this be considered?
This is on record. This is actually part of the realism
Movement. And I remember that because realism was not always about photorealism. It was about the capturing of
things. Look like things. Like for a really long time, subjects were flat to the picture plane, and the body was almost bent into 3 angles when we look at them. So when you're looking at very old paintings in churches that get restored later by crazy women who mess them up. But when you look at that, when you look at the, old paintings of the Madonnas and saints, they're actually quite flat. And even though the lines are delicate, the figure itself doesn't exist in a 3-dimensional space.
Like
as neoclassicalism hit, what?
Yeah, like her arms and stuff. And
as neoclassicalism, anytime we would get into a thing, people are like, oh, these Greek statues, so cool. Look at how real they are. People get inspired, and then that becomes a fashion and a fad. And then the patronage starts to request it, and then the artists start to develop the skills, and the artists that develop those skills work better. It's almost like the evolution and natural selection of art. But basically that resulted in portraiture that did not necessarily alter its subject significantly, which may be why Mrs. Wilton was not necessarily my favorite model.
She got cropped.
The authentic portrayal. She's a quite lovely woman. It just wasn't my jam. Because I think I'm more of a fantastical realist. So it's realism, but with this sense of magical space. But this was just about what was there. And so it's still impressionistic. There's still elements but when you look at the piece, you feel like you're there with the person. Their skin isn't one tone,
So we found 4.
This
is 4.
This is 4.
We're on step 4.
All right. Into the hands. And I may give myself some fresh water so that I have nice, clean water.
May water ever be in your favor.
It needs to be something. Sorry. I'm going to come in here and I really, when we're doing this part of the painting, we're going to definitely a little more orange than that. I may come in and get a little less white, a little more orange. So when I'm going, sometimes I'll touch the canvas and I'll be like, that's not where I want it to be. If I'm having trouble with blending and things, I will get my blending and medium involved.
That sounds like you're going to make a phone call and Samuel L. Jackson's going to show up in a suit with a briefcase.
If that's
and be
what
like,
it takes, it's what
I'm
it
here
takes.
To make sure the blending goes well.
If that's what it takes, that's what it takes. So what I'm talking about is this, and I may put some out on my surface. Only this brand, only this company. They don't pay me any money. It's just my opinion. But what it'll do is it'll not only slow down the drying time of stuff around your painting, but it'll help things blend a little more seamlessly from one end to the other. So if I want to come in here and be like, oh, still pretty peachy, but let's go more white, not so hard to do. Now I'm going to be using Oh, okay. I was like, I don't know what I did. Just adding these highlights. So we're kind of exaggerating the space around the fingers, the way that they. Really? Is like some animal back there teasing her? Or she just decided that that's just where she wants to be?
I think that she just decided that's where she wanted to be.
And we're going to just enjoy putting in her hands.
Yep.
It is a bit of work. You may be here for a second. Hands are ones that emotionally cause a lot of distress to new artists.
Yep.
They're not particularly anything more than anything else. All that it is with the hands that you guys are facing is that your mind has a lot of visual information about hands. So when you're painting them, it wants to tell you pretty intensely, whereas maybe it didn't have such a strong opinion before. Oh, that's wrong. Right? It wants to go, that isn't how a hand looks, because you, believe it or not, you've been looking at hands your whole life pretty carefully.
Hold on a second.
Can we not look at my head? There you go.
Let me see if I can fix this. Okay, hold on. I think we're back.
Are we back?
So it's the stream shows reconnected. Yep, there it goes.
Okay.
All right.
This
So
happens.
pop back over there. Yeah.
And again, another great reason to print out the free mini book.
Mm-hmm.
Free mini books, which may become bound together later on with extra info. You never know. I won't promise anything, but it could be.
If there's some buffering today, it may be weather related, but we've got we're on a pretty good connection in a pretty good area, and then I say that, and then everything's going to die, of course. But generally speaking,
don't tempt it.
No, we're not. We're humbly moving forward into 2021
with a little bit of a 2020 hangover.
Apparently, I thought that was great.
Yeah, forgive yourself the 2020 hangover that you may be dealing with right now. What can you do?
Tina was like, my skin looks so pale like a zombie. How can I fix it?
Little more. If your skin is one, stand back. Like literally get back.
Get back.
It's about 8 feet and look at the painting and see how it's coming in, right? The other thing is you can ask yourself when you're mixing those skin tones, does it need more pink? Right? Does it need a little more red in it? Does it need a little more yellow? Is it too dark? Is it too light? If this particular set of colors is challenging for skin tones, do the video Skin Tones with Hard Primaries. I have some more information about that in the mini book because it's not unusual for it to initially be challenging. You know, expect this. If you haven't done skin tones before, expect it to take 5 to 10 good attempts, like where you just like, I'm not giving up no matter what, at skin tones to sort of find your groove. You know, so like, sometimes each painting feels like a destination, but they're more like a pit stop on the road of your personal art journey. So kind of treat them more like a rest stop. Go around, stretch your legs, look around, read the little informational plaque, and then continue on.
There are a couple of bike riders out there with us.
There are? Now, do you mean the kind of bikes that pedal or the kind of bikes that go vroom vroom?
The kinds that go vroom vroom.
Okay. Because they're...
It was, at first I was looking out there and there was this litany of descriptions and I wasn't sure if they were talking about significant others or motorcycles. And I realized it was a motorcycle conversation pretty quickly.
Because of your old familiarity with motorcycles?
Yes.
That's what I figured.
I have been thrown from a bike or two.
Yeah, you have. I think I might need more humidity.
Need more humidity over there?
Maybe.
We could do that. I think we could break over. Shh. And get you some more in a second. No, that's not the one I want. That is. All right. get you some more humidity.
Getting a little pink in there, because I too need a little pink. Don't be afraid of pinking it up. Pink it up, pink it up. Sometimes I just like to blend those two zones together as if the light is a little, there we go. Just brushing that through. Just playing with those values back and forth. Just being relaxed about the result. We're not going to freak out. We're not going to stress out. We're just going to paint it out. We're just going to enjoy it. And then in the totality of its experience, we're going to see something come together. And we're going to be grateful for that. Because that's why we paint, probably. Now I can come in and I can be like, want to sort of imply a couple nails up in my hand. And we do absolutely get the nails out of the way and the hands out of the way early, because those are the places that you're most likely to have a little feeling about. The trick with the nail bits. Less is more, my friends. Less is more.
Mm-hmm.
Get too much going on in there, and then you're going to be there. I got too much going on in there, so I'm going to just take that out. Too much, too much, too much. I don't want that much. Too much, too much, too much. I don't want that much info on my nail. I come in and get just a bit of a highlight color. No, you are switching. I can hear you clicking away. So it's little, right? That's what we've got. It's little. We're going to do the fingers and hand over here. Arms and chest will go fairly quickly once the hands are done. Hands are just the journey that they are, guys. Yeah, we know. We've got a minute to get here, so find your skin tone, find your range. Don't be stressed about it. One of my very favorite portraits in the world was painted with Prussian blue, alizarin crimson, black, and white. Yeah, and it looks super realistic. I look at that one all the time and I wonder at it. But one of the lessons of that particular piece being out in the world is that it's about the sum of the parts. And that's what we've really got to kind of try to focus on, is the sum of the parts. We just bring this in. Breathe in, breathe out. We don't let this moment be troubling. It's not. Listen to the sound of our brush on the canvas. If we need a minute to allow our brain to be calm and think, to look at and observe, we give it that time that it wants and needs. We don't fight it. We let it have what it wants. We let it have what it needs.
Now, do you have a favorite painting that we've done?
I have a couple that I just really love. I wouldn't say like there's one just one favorite, but there's some that I'm just like really happy every time I look at them.
Mm.
You know.
What are those?
It changes really honestly. I would say ask me seasonally. Right now, I really, really love Bird in Flight and her peonies from the patronage. I honestly really love this particular painting right now.
Yeah.
The Koi Mermaid from the Big Art Quest. Of course, there's Sharknado, which I'm totally alone on, and I understand why. I accept
it was good
that.
painting.
It felt like a good painting to me. And some very nice person went and looked at it, and she's like, I see it, and I hear you. And she's like, but maybe because it's sharks and tornadoes, and that's not really topically what anyone wants to paint in the nicest way possible. Understand, it was a very nice comment. But it was just very like they came and they really looked and they were like, why is this your favorite painting and why wouldn't everyone else love it? And they just walked away with the obvious answer, which is like, well, it's a tornado and sharks flying through the air. So maybe a lot of people are not looking for sharks flying through the air. But every time I see that painting, just get gleeful in my heart. So, and would absolutely have hung it in my home on purpose. And I think that's just, that's just one of those things that we come to as we paint. We have these different little favorites that we come upon.
And got hit by autocorrect, and it said Sharknado. And so now I have this vision of all these world shark leaders meeting together at a table.
They'd probably be more effective than humans any day.
It's Sharknado.
They'd probably be like, listen, we should do something about the environment because we live in it.
It's the new Adult Swim series.
Eat the humans. That's their whole plan for global warming. They're like, eat as many humans as you can. See if we can knock back their numbers.
Why is it hungry sharks always have an Australian accent?
I don't know. I haven't met any hungry sharks with any kind of an accent, so I have no idea what Australian sharks.
It seems to be like a thing in TV. I think all sharks must.
We're adding a highlight to the knuckles. Okay, so something I've got to know here while we're at this. Are you like just speaking to
like general pop culture on TV? Like you go to Nemo. Like, they gave their shark guy a bit of an Australian accent.
They did. I don't know that that's not Australian profiling, though. I'm not really sure.
Are we profiling the Australians as sharks? Great white sharks? Most awesomest shark that eats people ever?
We might be.
This girl has kind of the killer whale look to her right now.
She's a bit of a killer whale right now.
She's got that cool black and white look going.
Now, I do want to have a bit of a, highlight coming down the finger. So I'm going to come right here. I need to add some yellow. I just need this to be a little bit lighter than the deep dark background here. It's barely going to show through the flowers. We just need to know that's there. We barely see it. There's leaves over. It's not going to be that important. There you go. Got some hands going. Now let's put in some arms. She needs some arms and some chest. So on the chest, definitely our skin tone, for sure, was a lot lighter and a lot more yellow. So let's, come in here and make sure that we've got that kind of happening. I can use my glazing medium if I need to sort of blend out. Very kind of fair little chest going on. You can sneak in bits of the So even in her chest, right? We don't have just one color. We have lighting across the space.
Mm.
And it's just important to kind of think of it in those terms. Like, oh, I don't really have one color of lighting across the space.
The chat's very entertaining, I have to say.
Yeah?
Sharknado has brought out some funniness.
I think we all feel like sharks could run the world better.
Well, Kelly
they certainly have done a good job of controlling seals.
Kelly was saying that there's a lot of great whites that apparently breed off the coast of Georgia. Is that right? So
I'm not surprised, but then again, I am surprised. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Can you imagine all your sharks with a Georgia accent? I can't do them, but they're distinct. It's like, so, you know.
You know, whatever you got to do there, dude.
I just think it'd be, we'll have to try that out sometime. Have a great white shark with a distinctly southern Georgia
accent.
Yeah. Like, sort of one of those old movie kind of accenty kind of things.
Are you thinking?
That'd be funny. See,
Ryder, I don't know what you think you're coming down the stairs to do, sir, but you are not. We are live. My sneakiest child sneaking. I've got the flowers there, which is why I'm choosing to kind of go with a little darker aspect. Sure, back upstairs.
Deb says that there are white sharks off of Cape Cod that have a wicked accent.
Do they now?
So I thought, huh.
All right, so I'm going to step back and look at this, and then we'll finish the arm.
All right.
So I put the darker color there above the hand since we're doing the flowers anyways in that space. I wanted to make sure that,
I'm with Louabelle, though. She's like, here in the UK, if seaweed touches us, we shriek and run to the beach. I'm like, that's me.
Shriek and run. Oh, from the water to the beach.
From the water to if I'm in the water and anything touches me, bang, I'm walking on water. He's
not even kidding. He's like, you can't invite him for body surfing. He's a water park only boy. And then water park only for the morning. Because as soon as the crowds get there, then he's like, Band-Aid floats by, he's done too.
I'm done.
So let's go get this arm.
That's Great Wolf Lodge for me.
It pretty much is Great Wolf Lodge for him.
They have an indoor water park. It's so fun.
It is, and they keep it super clean.
And warm.
John's so funny. And warm.
And free of Band-Aids.
It's
just probably the best thing. Oh, Sal asks, I'm confused. Where do I get the mini book?
Oh, yes. So happy to help. Now, the mods probably have links that take you there, but understand there's a weird little thing. On the page where they're going to send you is a picture of a hand opening a book. Above it is a thing that says, click the teeny tiny link or click the teeny tiny icon. Because no matter what I do, the link and the icon are always teeny tiny. So I thought if I just say, look for those, it's like this big. It's like the size of a thing, and I don't even know how you send phone. But if you click them, it will download that PDF, and you can print that right out.
Yep.
And you'll be so glad you did. You'll be like, oh, I printed that out, and I'm so glad that I did. And we'll be like, we're so glad you did too.
And see, that's the southern accent that I think all the great white sharks will have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, that's what the sharks. There's a new show, John, and it's gonna really freak you out. It's the Baby Shark Adventure Show.
It's awesome. I think that's fantastic. I can't wait for the game to come and ruin all the consoles. I'm sure it'll be in VR.
Yeah?
Yeah. because you'll have to do the hand motions, and it'll be a beat game. You have to shark the beat.
You got to shark the beat.
See, I won't even give it 3 bars because I'm sure I'll hit the "You have not licensed that rhythm." Do do do.
That's a little bit much right there, but I'll blend that in.
I generally live in a Scott Pilgrim narrated universe.
He does. He does generally exist in a Scott Pilgrim narrated universe. There's nothing we can do about it. He's just stuck there. It's just his world. Just his world. Just his world. Baby shark, baby shark, baby shark, baby shark. While I'm here, I'm gonna add bits right here of the yellow kind of skin tone that's maybe a little bit in the sleeve. And I now see I forgot to draw in all the darn way, which I'll do before the next step. But basically, there's a little sleeve. All right, so it wasn't that hard to put in.
Laura says she missed us both so much.
Oh, thank you.
Her name is shared by a rather famous adventurer, Laura Croft. And so it makes me think that would have been such a much different series if she adventured out to the top of a mountain and then broke out a paint set.
I think she would have been a much chiller person.
Free air painting here.
Do you think?
I think that'd be a much cooler game. Indiana Jones and the Tube of Burnt Sienna.
I mean, let's pitch it. See if Netflix will pick it up and run it for 3 seasons.
For 3 seasons, I'm sure they'll be in.
They'll do anything for 3 seasons.
Or so say the rumors.
No, I think it's pretty
mathematically sound.
It's only really backed by, everything that's come before.
Like every other episode ever done
before.
Ever.
Yes.
So they used math and science and figured it out.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, I've taken to doing this weird thing. I've always understood, none of the movie plots ever completely throw me where I'm like, I have no idea what happened. But sometimes I like to just kind of watch now those videos that go, the ending of da-da-da explained. Because here's what, I do always get the gist. I don't necessarily catch all the Easter eggs. Because I don't watch my films like I'm interrogating them. And I don't watch my TV shows like I'm trying to convict them of a crime. Which is the kind of attention that you have to be to catch if, I don't know, a power line is in the shot. Who knows, man. I take them in very kind of broad stroke holistically. But now I started to watch those things. So at the end of We Were Raised by Wolves, I got into that. And I'm not making a recommend. Here's what. The Chilling Tales of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I'm not making a recommendation. I do watch it. I don't know how I feel about the show, but I'm a completionist. I think it's genius, but it makes me uncomfortable. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I think I feel exactly about it the way that the cast that originally played Sabrina the Teenage Witch reacted to it. They were like, oh, that's very scary. And a little disturbing. That's not ours, Sabrina. Yeah, they're very much the same.
But you had to watch it all.
But I did. I had to watch it all. And man, talented cast and crew. And here's where I will credit the show. And I was trying to explain this to John, and he was like, what do you mean? The representation on that show, you know how Hollywood's like, we need more representation. That show's been doing it the whole time. Just fine with no notice or you got to be like this. They just, have a wonderful community that's believable and thorough and diverse in the way that, actual communities are.
I'm just waiting for my next Tarantino flick.
You are. But again, there's some things about the show that you really have to be in a mindset for, and so therefore I don't really, and it's definitely not child appropriate. It may not be adult appropriate. I'm not really sure. But I watched the original Sabrina the Teenage Witch. That's how I got sucked into it. I was like, oh, this is based on a comic? I didn't know that. Because the Archieverse goes on and on and on. Though I have to honestly say, what on earth is going on with Riverdale? How is that still there? Like, actually, these kids are in prison, and one kid says to another kid, you just don't know the heartache of high school teenage football. And this kid's like, yeah, I wouldn't know. I had to drop out in the 4th grade. That whole series of, like, actually written down, run by people on the crew, voice rehearsed sentences blew my mind. I was like, what do you mean? You ridiculous thing, you. Trying to find my little space here. Getting this dark and then blended correctly is like the most challenging part of it for me. This weird little transitional area. So we're just going to work around that. So anyways, that was that. So now I watched the thing, and I watched the thing explaining all the Easter eggs in, because I guess they were going to do a crossover or whatever, and another season. But then Netflix said, no, we'll only give you 4, and that's because you're loved by many, many fans. And this was fine because I, again, was like, I like the show, well-written show, all that kind of made me uncomfortable in some areas. Blah, de, blah, de, blah, everything I said. But what freaked me out about that, and then I had to look it up online to see how many people agreed with it and what their arguments were, is because I watched Stranger Things, for which I am not relaxed about it being completed. Like, I'm kind of like Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I'm like, okay, it ended how it ended. It is how it is. I'm okay with it. Talented people, talented crew, great show. But like Stranger Things, I will go fan crazy all over Netflix. Like, if you follow my Twitter account and all of a sudden I'm raging on Netflix, that's a Stranger Things problem right there. You'll know it right there. They'll be like, oh, they must have done something to Stranger Things to get her that riled up. I don't ever really worry about it. I'll have, like, I don't know, 6,000 followers on, maybe not even that many on Twitter. I'm not really sure. But they will hear from me.
Now, how do you join Emoji Club?
Oh, so I'm going to continue to do this. Why don't you try to explain Emoji Club? Because sometimes your device will let you join it and sometimes it won't. And you're a little more familiar with the...
Thank you, Deborah, for joining us.
Thank you, Deborah, for joining Emoji Club.
And if you're looking to join Emoji Club, because
you just need more emojis in life.
First rule of Emoji Club is...
enjoy Emoji Club?
You can't join Emoji Club if you're on an iDevice.
Not a rule that we made.
We didn't make this. This is because Apple and Google don't get along and they don't want to pay each other. So they make it slightly more difficult for us to join these things.
To do things.
So what that means is that if you're watching us and you're on an iPad or an iTablet of some kind, chances are you won't see the join emoji or sign up button next to the subscribe bell. Or down in chat where it shows the little emoji face. But if you are on a PC, on a desktop, on a Mac that has a browser or any Android device, you can then join Emoji Club, which you can then click over there and it'll allow you to sign up and join. Now, once you're joined, I believe that you can make the emojis on your iDevice and things like normal. You just can't join that way. So
it's so weird. Yeah, I have them on my iPad and other places. I don't.
Yeah,
it's not really clear on why there's even a thing there with it.
Well,
adding a little highlight. I'm just playing with the.
In short, the Google doesn't want to pay Apple a percentage when someone signs up for a service from their device. That's just.
In short.
Yep. That's really what it comes down to.
In short, you don't get it. In short, they won't share it with you. In short, they're kind of a total jerk about it.
Okay, so Heather said, I have an iPad. I had no problems joining Emoji Club. Okay, they may have changed this. This was...
Yeah, they're always saying, and this will be available to you in a half second, but I never believe them. But then they do manage to make things...
But then they fix it, and they make
All right, so if you can see the join button, that's how you join.
That's it.
All right, guys. Guys, we just got through this, what is by far the most challenging step of the whole project. So if this is an area where you found yourself sort of held hostage, and I don't know if you've ever had that feeling in painting where you're like in an area, like some part of it, some branch, some hand, some rock, some part of your cat's face, where you're just like, I can't get out of this area. No matter what I do, every paint mark I put down is wrong. Everything I do just makes it look crazier. Stop, stand up, breathe, walk away, make a cup of tea, cup of coffee, whatever you do, relax yourself. Give it a second. Go sit across the room, look at it calmly, and don't touch it again until your art brain is like, oh, I see it. Or you're ready, like, emotionally. But don't just hold yourself hostage into a part of the painting that's just aggravating you. Like if you're cussing at the painting or yelling at others coming into your studio. Stop, drop, wash your brushes, give it a minute. Take a deep breath, but know that it's very normal. It's normal to get caught into areas of a painting. This is the one I suspect will hold people the most, the longest, and takes a second because, you know, everybody wants skin tones to be super uniform.
So we're moving into
step 5.
Now, while I'm going to leave this up,
I'm going to put out a new palette of paper because this is all skinning.
Okay, while you're putting that out there, you chat with them. I'm going to leave the step 5 up here, and what I would like you to do is. So Desiree says, and I know this is going to take you a minute to respond to, so I'm just going to say it, then I'm going to microwave your coffee. She says, can I take this moment to thank the Sherpa for telling us about the Guild Codex books? I've been devouring them. Thank you very much.
That I do recommend. I do recommend the Guild Codex. I do. Oh, I'm so glad you like them. I'm so glad you like them. I'm so insane for it. Did you know there's a group on Facebook? Annette Marie has a group. There's a spoiler group and there's like a regular group. And if you do the Art Sherpa official group, her group's easy. She approves posts too. It takes a minute to figure out the approvals, but you'll get it in 2 seconds. There is in there. Annette Marie is an artist. If you follow her Instagram, she draws all her characters, and then there's a bunch of fan art. I have done fan art, but I haven't shared it because I'm shy about it. But in the group, there's some fan art, and some of the stuff about the Guild Codex fan art is the best. And she's written a ton of series. All of them are multi books, and kind of with the same sort of flair. John's right. I'm into it a little bit. It's the whole thing for me. I get completely about it. I listen to her while I am on when I'm painting. And so I've read everything in Kindle, but I also get the audiobooks because I really like the lady that she has read the audio, Chris Ducart. And that's crazy that I know that because I never remember anybody's name, but I remember Chris Ducart. Good job. I really like how you read books. And so Annette Marie writes them, and then Chris Ducart reads them, and I love how Chris Ducart reads them. And moderator Cad Yellow is probably laughing her head off right now. And so on the 5th, the audio book of the last Demon Codex books come out, which is like that's my personal like jam right there. I think it's because the copious use of cookies. I think that's really what it is. Is the heroine's a little squishier and there's a copious use of cookies. So yeah, he's right. That was for as long as whatever he could have cooked a meal for as long as I could do a whole video on the 1,000 reasons why I really like Annette Marie. And oh my gosh, she's better than a lot of writers.
Yep.
Just like, and I'm not alone.
Okay.
It is something that Lockery and I have in common. We have that in common. And we have talked about things that we feel about it. And we also both lurk in the group. We don't like really act out in the group. We're very like lurking. And then we might be like, this is really good.
Put out your paint.
This is really good.
What is your paint? We're on step 5.
5 alive. We're going to
put the paint out here.
We're going to rough in some stuff. So I'm going to put out my Ultramarine Blue. If you didn't have the Ultramarine Blue, as that one person asked before, just pick a different blue. It's totally okay. Here's going to be where the magenta comes in. The magenta. will come in to this. A little magenta makes us so happy. A little cad yellow is so much fun for me. I can't sing, but Annette Marie can write a book. Oh my gosh, like I'm such a goofy dorky fan. I'm such a goofy dorky fan. You have no idea. There's a couple series that I like. I very much like The Land by Alaron Kong. Great writer, great series. I'm a little worried because he's getting distracted into another series and he really has not wrapped up the first series and we're like on book 8. But it doesn't matter. I'll just follow my favorite artists anywhere. Just don't really care what they do. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And I'll tell you what, I have read recommendations and they are terrible. Like good stuff is not out there. Now, when I'm not doing those two, when those two guys don't have stuff out, then I do Deborah Harkness and then I also do midlife fairy hunter thing too. I'm fine. It's okay. Nothing has happened that you need to be concerned about.
Step 5 again. Step 5.
I'm fine.
5.
I'm just excited.
We're
I'm just excited. I'm just excited. That's all it is. I'm just excited.
But now, this is for real, step 5.
This is for real, step 5.
Tell them what these colors are that you...
Are
you done?
I've been singing them.
You're
But I'm going to tell them again.
Okay.
Mars Black, Burnt Sienna, Cad Red Medium, Quinacridone Magenta, Ultramarine Blue, Cad Yellow Medium, Naples Yellow Light, and Titanium White. I'm going to get a big brush. I like to use a big brush because there's a lot to paint and I don't want to spend forever doing it. So I'm going to just rough in. This is that first layer. This is that first space of dress where I don't think that this brush will get me. I'll just pick up this brush and that is our plan. I'm going to take a little black and brown and a little ultramarine blue. A little more ultramarine blue and white. And start to come on the back side here. Wiggly, wiggly, wiggly. You could use any big brush you have, any brush that gives you control, any brush that makes you feel confident in what you're doing. That's what the brush needs to do, is just make you feel okay and confident in what you're doing. This side of the sleeve, and this, we're doing this very much like we did the skin tone, which is that we're going to do cool shadows, cool highlights. Those means those are kind of like biased, maybe a little more to the blue, maybe a little more to browns or grays, and then come back when necessary and hit those warmer ones that are more in the corals and peaches and things. You can also see, I just like that it goes, I'm fine. John just got me excited. He did get me excited. Super excited.
Well, I knew that some questions are...
just like, I'm like, ah! Add a little bit of magenta into that and that'll pull a little purple in. So we definitely are going to want a nice deep, kind of shadow coming underneath the bodice over here. But again,
very purpley.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of purple in it. There's a lot of brown in it.
And that makes the shadow.
And that's going to make one. There's two sets of shadows. So there's some values in the highlighted warm areas that are light and dark. And then there's some values in the cool areas that are quite dark.
See that?
Okay.
Pointing up.
Okay. So what you'll notice is like here, these are kind of cool shadows and highlights, right? They're not quite as saturated. They don't pull as far forward. As we move into the areas that are more in the focus light area, they'll come a little more coral, a little more pink. They'll bias more reds and yellows. Here they'll bias more blues, browns, and purples. So that's why we are picking it. And then as I come up here, I get lighter and lighter. You know, you want to get lighter and lighter, and I'm going to get more into the red. But much like the rest of this, it'll be about making sure that we, come in here and, okay, I don't know. I grabbed a little yellow to get in here because the dress here is actually, believe it or not, quite see-through.
Yeah.
So that's how we're going to kind of get some, add a little highlight there. Sort of fun to play around with it. Let me see.
It's not very sweet.
But it's caffeinated, so I'll take it. A little more yellow, a little more white. The purple grays with the yellow because purple and yellow are contrast. So that's a way of kind of getting in some of these highlights that are a little more yellow without taking them into that warm, bright yellow. If I need to get my brush wet, come in and just get a little bit wet and there's a bit of this gray downward kind of space that happens here from this little bow. And believe it or not, we want it to be very light and airy like that. Just getting some shapes. All right, now in this same sort of range, we're going to come down here and we're going to get some of these darker values, right? So let's get some of this blue over to this brown, making some great grays. Great grays. And we're going to come back here. Look at that. Where you want it to be more brown, take it more into the brown. I can always come in and make a much darker kind of shadow range if I need to come through here and it'd be like, oh, some wrinkles of fabric. And come up here. Now, see if we can capture it. Between the bodice and the sleeve, there is definitely quite a dark value. Underneath the hand, there is quite a nice dark value. I'm going to have to rinse out. Rinse. Change your water. I'm going to put my dirty waters behind. Step by step. How are you guys liking the PDF?
Digging it. Those people, everyone was like, where do I get it? Where do I get it?
They're the best thing.
Are you familiar with Amsterdam brand paint?
Yes.
What do you think
That
of
is by Royal Talons, a very good company. They are a usable student paint. I love abstract acrylic in the pouches. I just think for the quantity and quality and the fact that upgrades really easily into the pro brand, I love them personally. That said, Royal Talons, fantastic company. Tons of student resources. Bookmark them with your son Elliot. Bookmark them.
Can I?
And, oh yeah, what?
They gave me the coolest set of chrome sunglasses at
Yeah, they
NAMTA.
did. They did.
Their swag was these chrome sunglasses, which
And
is
they're
awesome.
very committed to the experience of the artist from student
Yes.
to professional. They make sure they do outreach in university.
Yep.
And they don't hire stupid people to give crazy recommendations that get people hurt. They're pretty careful about it.
Mm.
Yeah, I like it. Sorry, I don't have any opinions here at all.
Yes, if you
So-
tuned into us to get not opinions, this was not the place.
This was a terrible mistake then.
Full of opinions.
That's what we have. We are made of opinions and vinegar.
And apparently shark facts.
And shark facts, as well as just general nerdery. So in this area, I'm going to begin to come down and let's, I might get a little brown into it, but these are the lighter parts of the dress. And again, this part is, remember, we do this in a couple stages, so you don't have to get the whole thing worked out right now.
Which brush are you on?
Which brush am I on, or which?
Brush.
I'm still in the same step.
Which brush?
Oh, this big boy is a number 12 silver Cambridge round.
Okay.
I think having one good big round in your paint box is smart. And this is just one of them that you can get.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to get this one. Certainly not required. Just a good one to get. Sometimes I like to bring certain colors back into other colors, as you do. I find with this, it just helps to get us just an amount of layering up. Now, for the stuff up top, I'm going to move to the bright. And the reason I'm moving to the bright is just because the areas are smaller.
Now, over on her left arm, they were concerned about the little streak of paint that went down there. See the gray streak that went down their left arm?
Yes.
That's okay?
Yeah, that's part of a bow.
Okay.
So if you want to zoom in on it, and we'll talk about what it is.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Weird
well,
things I do that you don't know have a meaning.
Sometimes
It's okay.
you made a stroke and we're like, what are you doing? And we're like, I have a cunning plan of layers.
I do often have a cunning plan of layers. It's true. I do actually often have a cunning plan of layers. I'm kind of crazy like that. Need it darker than this. Because the flowers will be under here. Doesn't need to be perfect. We've got leaves. It's okay. Just making sure we are starting to work those little values as we should. Now, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to get a little bit of my white. I'm going to make sure I've got a handle on this. There is coming forward, kind of like at an angle, a little bit of a dress bodice here. And it has a titch of a blue kind of process to it. Rinse out. Oh, wait, no. Well, I've got my dark. Maybe even a little of my black. I'm gonna come here. This is the sleeve you can barely see. This is the sleeve you can barely see. Just brush that. Don't be stressed about it. It's no biggie. Now rinse out. I feel like it's like an exercise thing. Now rinse out. I'm taking a little bit of my brown and yellow and I'm going to add some white to it. This part of the bosom is really well lit. And that is about the positioning to the light source. Everything else on there.
Oh, Betty's got a good first painting question.
Oh, wonderful. I love first painting questions.
She just finished her first painting.
Woohoo!
Should she varnish it?
I'm going to tell you really honestly. Why don't you do some more paintings, and here's when you're ready to varnish.
Don't do it.
You need a painting that you test your varnish process on first. I generally just maybe just grab a pack of 8x10 canvases, and you kind of just put the painting colors and materials that you've used sort of on it. Don't paint a painting, but just on it. Let it cure for several days, and then following exactly the varnish instructions that you see on the bottle and not deviating in any way, varnish your painting, the test painting. If it doesn't do something crazy, you probably could. This is actually a new updated tip. I used to just be like, follow the instructions of the bottle, but I realized that's not enough. Also, don't varnish in extreme weather. Don't varnish in extreme humidity. Don't varnish near pets or hair or dust. You don't have to varnish in acrylic painting. It is not required. Varnishing does protect and unify color.
Yep. What I would say
and unify finish
is varnish, much like painting, requires practice. So it's better not to varnish your first painting. So
here's one. I'm going to save you a lot of miserable moments in your life, because you'll be in a group and somebody's going to say, I use white glue. I use Mod Podge. Essentially the same thing.
Don't use that. Unless it's a varnish, don't use
floor wax. Floor wax is made for an inflexible surface and yellows over time. Not a good varnish.
Yeah. It's hard to cut corners with products like that.
And honestly, you don't save money. There's so many good products that are economical. Like I would say it'd be better to use an Artist Loft varnish over floor wax, and definitely over Mod Podge, which, by the way, is a fantastic product by a fantastic company. And they do have a picture varnish. It's just not that. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to use something you would varnish a rock with, because, again, inflexible surface. Like triple thick is fantastic, but not all triple thicks are made for surfaces that flex, may get moisture on the backside, may do a bunch of weird things. So it just saved you a lot of trouble. Mm-hmm. You should be so happy and save that trouble. Mm-hmm. To go around. All right, I think we're going to call this whatever that step was. Do you remember the step? I don't remember. Step was a 5?
I thought that was 5. And so we'd be moving on to 6, I think.
6. I can count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 6 it is.
6.
That's the other reason why it's good for me to have the steps over here for my references.
You can see
and when
where
John's
you're
like, now, right now, it looks like one of her, this is really good to see this at this stage, because it'll look like one of her breasts is lower and really strangely placed. But as we highlight this part of her bosom in a similar way that we did over here, what you're going to find is that this all levels out. And by the time we put the flowers in and everything, that you are totally on it and doing great. Oh my gosh, guys, I'm loving this cup of coffee. Since we're here for a second, John's grabbing things, and I want to wait till he's back to switch. I will do some shameless plugs. The Art Sherpa has a store, and there are things there like a brush spa kit. So if you have invested in your brushes and you want to make sure that they last a really good time, the number one thing that you can do is take care of them and wash them after every painting session. After every single painting session, don't leave your brushes in water to sit. That cracks the wood and loosens the ferrule. After every painting session, wash your brush with soap and water, lay flat to dry after finger shaping. I do make a brush soap. It is awesome, but you can do this with Dawn too. Even if you just use Dawn dish detergent, if you follow the instructions on how to wash your brushes on my brush soap blog, you're still going to end up extending the life of your brushes, because what you want to do is get the paint out of the ferrule. Right. And whereas with oil brushes or watercolor brushes, you want to condition. For some reason, I thought somebody got in a can of whipped cream. And you want to make sure that the hair holds up. Most acrylic brushes are synthetic. So you don't really care if they're conditioned. You want to strip those suckers of what it is. If you have left paint on a brush and it's dried, that's okay. The brush isn't ruined. The first thing that you can do is get a high volume rubbing alcohol, 91%, 99% professional grade, and you soak the brush to the metal part of the ferrule, no deeper than that. You would soak the brush in some rubbing alcohol for just 5-10 minutes, and then running warm water, you start to loosen it up. Wash with soap, repeat if necessary. I can get a brush back from almost any state. I've even got brushes that were like falling behind something with dry paint on them like months later. So it's completely recoverable. Never throw out a brush. Even if they get blown out, they make a good cloud brush, bush brush. You don't know.
Yep.
Could be your thing.
All right. So what's this? What are we doing next?
Finish the dress.
Finish the dress.
Finish the dress, my friends. Finish the dress, my friends. So we're going to come in here and we're going to start to add the colors and elements that, you know, make this a nice little dress to finish. Finish, finish, finish. I'm taking a little Quin into my Naples Yellow and grab a little white. My diffuser was just like, it had a whole little moment there. So we're just adding, you know, that like little reflection of some skin tones through the dress coming through here. I also like to have a little bit kind of right here and put a little bit as if it's peeking through, right? You're just letting it peek through. You know, it's pretty darn good. Let's add a lot more white and maybe a little yellow to this. Start to warm that transparent color up. We'll rinse out. A little ultramarine blue, a lot more of that. Start to little burnt sienna, right? Come in here and start to more white. So we're just playing with them until we find it, much like the skin tone, you know. Come in here. You can kind of see now, yeah? Be playful. And we're using a big brush just so that we have control over, you know, the length of time something sometimes tends to want to take. I will always want to leave a little bit of a pretty dark crease right there, you know, no matter how I'm lightening things up, no matter what I'm doing there, because bring some of that in there. Lighter value.
Cheryl was saying, you do the best job of making this accessible to people with traceable access, color information. You're just so generous with you and all your talents. She thinks you're wonderful.
Thank you. I really, here's what, I want everyone to feel like they can try, and I really appreciate you letting me know that it's helping. It is a bit of a thing to do, I won't lie. It's a bit of a thing. It's a bit of a thing, but it's a worthwhile thing. Knowing that, you know, when I come here on this brush, I'm going to be very, like, I'm going to push this here, kind of a loose little wrinkle that we're doing. Sort of implies a bit of the bodice that's lacy. You never know what's going to click for somebody, you know, and you guys have taught me over the years that I've been on YouTube about what helps you succeed. You really have. You know, you guys give me that feedback and be like, you know, hey, this really helped me. And then when I see it work for a lot of people, then I know like, oh, well, if I include this on a lot of what we do, we're going to see people really succeed at a project. And then if I see it be really successful, you're going to see a lot more of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to grab some of my Naples Yellow through here. I love that color through here. Just making sure we are putting some lace in the colors that we like. So glad that the stuff helps. I think we just recently figured out some big important stuff is what it is. You know, or at least I feel as a teacher, I've just recently come to like some teaching breakthroughs. We're just right here on the toe of this.
Dory asked a good question. So she was saying that she had watched she had signed up for the patronage the other night while watching the New Year's Eve show, and she thought that she had heard you say that they were all going to be one level, but she had to choose.
Yes. So right now what we're doing is we're switching websites, and the website is going to let it be one level, and pick whatever's in your budget right now on the patronage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's all, everything helps.
It all helps, and actually it's helping us make this transition because we've been through so many different websites that have not treated us particularly well or done what we needed or made sure you guys had the experience that we asked for. But we're hopefully moving to one that does. Mm-hmm. And one of those things is that, you know, we had this tiered thing, which is what everybody thinks, but John and I said we'd rather just have it be like one level, one amount.
So everyone could be together in a big room and party down.
Right. So generally how it'll go is it'll be in the first quarter, like soon.
Soonish. It's technologically bound, but you'll get notifications.
Because right now, to sign people out and sign them into one thing, totally crazy. And I'm sorry if we weren't more clear on that on the New Year's show. Like if we did not communicate that we are going towards there, but we are not that yet there. Totally apologize.
It's soon, the way that Blizzard does soon.
No, better than Blizzard, but still soon. Better than Blizzard soon.
I don't know.
So that would be like next year.
Maybe. But no, it's not
No, what'll happen is kind of like what we did with the dollar patrons, which is if you're at so what'll happen with the patronage is if you're at a patron level below the cost of the patron level we're going to set it at, you will be gratised like a month or two, so you could finish any projects that you have.
Yeah. Huh? We're working on that kind of stuff.
We're working on that kind of stuff, and then letting everyone sign out and sign in, and then having it be one button, one explanation, one email, one newsletter, one group, one thing, one set of events, one.
To rule them all.
It. So thank you for your support to help us make the change, because it's going to be like a crazy thing just even trying to get that worked out,
But that's what we're doing.
I'm going to rinse out. And I think, just getting there is a journey. Mm-hmm. It is a journey though, just getting there. Like we almost want it to be this and this. There you go. Catching that value and then that grayed out purple is always its interesting little transition. So this side of the sleeve, before it hits the main thing, has to kind of transition from cool to dark. I want to come in and imply skin tone just a little bit better. Take a little bit of our head red and head yellow and a little of our burnt sienna. Just play with it.
Mm-hmm.
Play. Be playful. Be playful, I say. Be playful, I say. A little highlight there. Creating a little bit of defined tulle coming off.
You're all deep in the painting.
I am.
thought.
I'm thinking about it.
Thinking about the shadows.
You got to think about the shadows. You got to think about the light. Think about where the stuff is going. Needs to treat you right.
Where you at there?
There we go. A little bit of yellow peeking off there. Sometimes I like to turn this to the side. I don't know if I can. Nope, I can't. So we won't be doing that. We'll work on this nice area over here. Let's put out a little more white. We're certainly going through our white in a very aggressive way. And we're coming closer to the end than you might think. Really, everything after this is kind of like, you know how you go up a hill and you're like, up the hill, up the hill, up the hill, up the hill, up the hill. And it's like, wow, it's just like, slow up this hill. And then all of a sudden you're like, this hill is over. That's about how this will go.
I say thank you to Patty for supporting all of our awesome
Patty.
emojiness.
Add a little brown to that yellow warm mix. And we just start making sure that we are, warm and yellow right here. Let's make sure we are warm and yellow through here.
Interesting. I was not sure. I'm going to ask a question here.
Okay.
Could you paint a full arm and go over it afterwards with zinc white?
That could be a part of a technique that should be part of many other techniques. So you could probably get away with that as long as you had more techniques to think about past that. I'm going to turn this to the side, sir. So yeah, zinc is wonderful for that. I am only doing zinc in the patronage for 2021 because we might do some bigger projects that require it, but for 2021, I'm going to try to stick with the acrylic April color palette and tool set. Like create a set tool set, create a set paint set so you guys can have an easier time managing things like budget. You know, I find that students can do that better if they know what to expect, so that, you know, once you get kitted up, all of the lessons will be a little more accessible and easy for you to get to. I think it's important to add some pink to the skirt. You'll find that the pink and the Naples Yellow warms up beautifully and does some great stuff.
Dory says she really appreciates today's lesson. May not be what she wants to paint, but she has learned so much by watching this and really has been sort of cheered up as well.
Oh, I'm so glad. I am so glad. And, you know, the wonderful thing about what we do here is wait 2 seconds.
There'll be a new one tomorrow.
There's a new lesson. Like, we've got Frida Kahlo coming up. We're going to do a portrait of her. And when you get the newsletter, you're going to learn all about her. Lots of stuff about Frida Kahlo. She's our artist of the month this month. She's definitely part of our self-care theme because Frida really got it. She painted to manage a tremendous chronic pain. And also, I think, a lot of emotional pain as well. And let's load up some white on here. We're going to get some very important little highlights.
Only you have to live inside your emotional state, so make the time to improve it.
Oh, I like that.
So, I mean, you're only helping yourself.
It's true. I think that that's a hard thing to do, to make time to restore the things in ourselves we're just highlighting with white to kind of capture, you know, the bits of the lace that are maybe more reflective. It can be really hard to find that space to value ourselves and make sure that we've taken that time for us, for the people we love.
And, you know, if painting this lady's dress and corset isn't your cup of tea, we've got a few...
Literal cup of tea.
Hundreds.
We literally have cups of tea.
We have cups of tea. Cups
that
of
you can paint. Yes.
We have mugs of beer. We have glasses of wine. We have cups of water. Half full and half empty. We have a pair of pears. And our audience and community has
awesome.
Many, many, many pears. There's been a lot of pears.
There has been a lot of pears.
Some goats and chickens and roosters and cows and trucks and Santas and girls and boys and dogs and cats and trees.
From the friend from walking away.
We have there's covered some stuff. Some beholders and dragons and fairies.
We might have gotten into a few things.
Mountains and waterfalls and moons and... So, you know, if the dress isn't your thing, we got a couple other options.
But it's okay if it's not.
It's okay.
We're being funny.
Yeah.
We're fine. No one is...
We're not.
Yeah, I'm
really,
fine.
We're going to be doing another one in a day or two. So if you don't like this one, come back in. It's going to be okay.
Right.
It's all right.
That's where we are for...
Is that where you're at?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to be on 7,
that
sir.
Was step 6?
Yeah, that was step 6. 7 is going to be defining the corset, adding those black accents and the little, like, you know, start on the ring and get those little bits in that you've got to do to finish. You can microwave my coffee.
I can. I'll microwave mine too. You tell them what's step 7?
I'm going to tell you about step 7, or just talk to them about life and the nature of everything. First, before we go on to step 7, if you're painting at home, I'd like to take this chance to remind you to breathe deeply. Breathe in all that good creativity. Release all that expectation you're putting on yourself. Breathe in that self-acceptance, because this isn't supposed to be a perfect painting. This is just your painting. Breathe out all those worries. And it's okay to go across the room and look at your painting for a minute, contemplatively, sort of take it in. Maybe you'll notice an area that asks you for a little more pink. Maybe another part will say, no, I'd like a little bit of a deep purple. And that's okay too. What you want to do is start to, while you're doing these tutorials, to start to listen to your artist brain. Everybody has one, and it's not related to talent. It's just the creative part of your imagination that has suggestions or ideas. Chances are, if you have been educated in any sort of traditional educational system, certain aspects of that may not have been as developed as you might like. And so this is a great time to develop that imagination and start listening to that creative side of yourself. Breathing in creativity, breathing out self-doubt, and sipping our coffee because that's so calming. I don't have a meditation channel for a reason.
That good?
Good.
All right. So now we're done introducing step 7. Let's do step 7.
Let's do step 7. Step 7, I'm mostly going to do with this bright and my round brush. I'm going to start out with a little bit of black, just loaded on here, just black. And we're going to come up to the bodice right here. And we're going to add that little bit of dress that comes out. We're going to do the same over here. Just got a little bit of dress that's showing. Little bit. Let's start to define what's happening here. Cleaning up these stripes now. Now we're thinking about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a nice quiet time to really enjoy the painting process. I like this particular stripe right here because it just really implies the bend. And also this part that sort of vanishes into the boning. Which, having done some of these, I can tell you it would. For sure. I'm going to actually just do this with my bright brush. I'm going to come over here, add a little bit of a black mark. It's loosely paint in this bow. If you think about these old velvet bows and things, they kind of were a little bit droopy, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's nice to capture that feeling of that being as relaxed and chill as it is. It's a good time to take anything that you think might be needing this. Also, I'm going to come into a little bit of my blue. Maybe even get some of my magenta. A little bit of this sort of implied space on the back side of the bodice. Back into the black here. Just a little bit, because that's just very under shadow, and so we don't want that to pull to the forefront. Let's also kind of work out our stripes a little bit. So going to get my white. Naples Yellow again is quite lovely, I think. Make sure that the areas of stripes have that finished look that, you know, we're going for. And you can see it very quickly starts to come together. Very quickly starts to finish.
Mm-hmm. Really starts to come together.
You know, I can get a little pink involved if I want as I come over here a bit. And the reason for some of that being put there is that the side's a little more in shadow, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Last thing.
Last thing
that you're going to be doing. You're going to come here with your round. You're going to take a little of your black and brown together, mostly black. And we're going to come across her finger here. Make sure we have the beginnings of our band put in.
To say she's spoken for.
Well, she was Mrs. Wilton, so I suppose she had a lot more rings than this, but I was just like, that's just a lot of jewelry to sport. So the extra weird little wiggly bit, that's where I'm going to set the stone.
Mm-hmm.
And come here and a little bit of this and maybe make sure that this area of our corset is a little bit defined. See how we did that?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of a touch, but these things kind of sometimes will matter. That's a good time to catch any of those moments that you're feeling. Catch them.
Catch
them like a Pokemon. Last other little thing. You know how we did the little ultramarine and the black? You want this kind of blue-gray color? Come here.
Rita was saying that she's going to have, she lives in Finland, and she's wondering what paints to get. And chances are Sennelier was probably available over in Europe. And,
yeah, Sennelier.
What was the one you said earlier?
Royal Talons, Amsterdam, and their professional lines are available over there, and they're quite good. Golden is globally distributed. I have a blog on my website of every acrylic paint company and its website. And then I have the ones I recommend, but I have all of them because, like, I might not have tried camel acrylics, and that is a big thing. And remember, with these affiliate links, right, when we're talking about colors, when we're talking about a thing, we have a link to price check your Amazon. And I believe it does it for every country that has Amazon to make sure they haven't jacked up the prices on you past what list price is. So the moderators have that. It's weirdly called Camel. I didn't name it. I don't know why it's called Camel, but it price checks Amazon. So anything that keeps Jeff Bezos a little bit in check is probably good. It's like having a little kryptonite around just in case. Like, I know it's a Batman way of thinking, but sometimes we got to. Don't you even start on
DC. It's an internet world where you just grab names and use them. Because Google and Zulily are real words that we use, right? So let's say we just make up some other things, like, we'll call it TikTok, and I don't know, just make up some other words. We'll just call it that.
That's what they do. So
I mean, at least Facebook said what it was.
What to tell you, but we are on step 8.
You're on step 8.
We're on step 8.
All right, let's go over here. I'll stop heckling the internet for their naming convention.
The internet for a couple minutes.
All right, there we go.
Step 8. So that's where you are in your book. That's where you are in your step-by-step. That's where we are in this journey, is step 8. All right, let's put in the beginnings of step 8. But we know we're going to need some more white paint because always we need more white paint. And now we're going to put out our green paint. So first, I'm going to just take a cat's tongue brush.
Yeah.
And a little bit of my green and burnt sienna.
Oh, you're doing the. Do, do, do.
That's why I was like, don't get too attached.
Joanne
Just
thinks
said
this.
finger.
Joanne loves this. She thinks she's going to paint it for her boudoir.
I think that this is a perfect boudoir painting, to be real honest. I think that's what should go in one.
I don't have a walk-in closet, but if I did, I'd hang this on the wall.
Well, we kind of do. We just have
It's a walk-in closet with no walls. That's called an attic, honey.
Whatever gets you through. All right. We're going to also kind of, actually, I think I want a couple leaves up here just to make sure we've got some kind of sticking out everywhere. We want this to be green, but just a very deep green. The original, so you may, if you go look at the original, you're like, oh, why are those leaves black, or were they feathers, or what is it? Sometimes when artists bought paint, the pigment wasn't stable and it will darken or color change over time. So a lot of times when you're reproducing famous works of art, the temptation is to reproduce the mistake in the paint. But actually, with a little bit of research, you can find out what colors things originally were and paint them as the artist originally intended them. It's not that artists were like super dull and drabby. They painted with bright colors too. It's just the colors faded. Now, I like to take a little of my Cad Red and my Quin Magenta together as a base here. And I'm going to start to speak to some of this little dark area that we have going on. I can paint over that if I want to. I just want to make sure that I've got space to work from.
Now, if you really just got overwhelmed by the fingers, could you just make her holding the big bunch of flowers?
Yes.
And just kind of hide the fingers?
You could just hide those hands right under a beautiful bouquet. Nobody could say nothing to you. Chances are they don't know the original painting anyways. And you can be like, I meant it that way.
You don't get to tell me about my fingers. They're in the...
Yeah, you're not in charge of my hands.
I don't see a ring on these. Well, maybe there's a ring on this finger, but you painted it there, so it's your fingers.
That's right. It's your fingers. It's your moments. Don't let them come in and say anything to you about it. I just want some basic shapes here. Now I am going to dry this so I can glaze a couple of things with a shadow, and then we will move on.
Move on.
Let's hope
oh my gosh,
the power doesn't go out.
Everyone, we'll see if the experiment is. So we live in a very, very old house. It's wonderfully drafty and big and empty and has 3 iterations of electrical upgrades stemming from the original post and wire when this house originally had the first electricity brought into it. So yeah, every once in a while when we turn something on, we're like, well, we hope this doesn't blow a circuit, because it didn't yesterday, but it might today. So it's good.
It's good.
It worked.
It worked. It's good. It's great. It's golden.
Do-do-do.
Take a little bit of this. I'm going to load a little black on my brush, and I'll show you why. Sometimes it's nice to come around.
Ooh, and that's what's called cutting in.
Cut in a little bit. Get rid of those chalk lines. Clean up the line around the arms a bit. Give it a more finished, resolve look. You'll find it actually does some nice stuff for you. You do want some areas of the painting to feel very fluffy and loose, but there's some areas that you probably would prefer did not. And it is okay to do that. Now, I'm going to take a little of my magenta and ultramarine, and we're going to come out here and imply a little bit of a purple shadow off the flowers. I think it's a good idea to take some kind of glazed over the fingers under the flowers, and even like shadow back. just some of what's going on. So it's just a little bit more in shadow. You know what we can do?
Mm-hmm. Everyone's asking where her head is. I think, remember in Labyrinth, those dudes who could kick their heads off and just run around? Maybe that's what she is. She's just like cruising around, headless, not having a hard time at all.
So that's interesting, right? Like, so one of my very favorite fellow art students, he would only take pictures of people's torsos, and it was a really wonderful collection. I'll tell you something. When you paint people walking away, when you paint aspects of people, their feet, their hands, their torsos, you create a portrait, a figure painting that allows anyone to see themselves in the painting. But when you add a face to it that's representational, then that's what they see. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's nice, especially in our home, to have these little elements of like, oh, we're just going to do the bodice, or we're just going to do hands or feet, or some element, but not the whole thing, because that allows us to be part of the portrait. Mm-hmm. Nice, interesting thought. Yes?
Yeah.
Num, 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 num. I feel like,
and everything
not to freak you out entirely, but that was that whole step.
That was the whole step.
That was that whole step. So
that was pretty good.
One last step here.
So if we go on here.
Step 9, which is kind of the end.
Kind of the end.
Kind of the end.
But what happens in 9?
And in 9, we're going to make these flowers look like lovely little roses, and we're going to paint a diamond ring. And then we're going to sign it. And we're going to remember to make time to be creative. And let's start 9 by breathing in our creativity and breathing out our worries and fears. All right. The 9 is fine. I'm going to do this over here. So I really like my roses to be a little bit more coral.
Fireys. That's the headless dudes in Labyrinth.
I'm going to put out some yellow.
I could see that we might have a couple Labyrinth fans in our community.
Maybe a few?
Just a couple.
I'm going to take a little of my red and my cad red, my brown, and my yellow. And we're going to come here.
Oh.
And we're going to add just a little bit of there, another. Make sure you leave the dark. Don't take away your dark. As we come into the center of it, we're going to add a little more yellow. Let that have a minute to think about what it's done.
You take a minute. Think about what you painted.
If your water is dirty, wonderful time to treat yourself to some clean water here at the end. So I'm going to take my magenta over here to my Naples Yellow, and I'm going to mix these together and get a pretty lovely coral. You can always cad red into that to coral it even more. And I'm going to come right here and I'm going to pick a couple places, and I'm going to start by painting concentric circles. We've done a lot of flowers over the years. This is a simple painterly way of expressing roses. Where it becomes challenging is if internally you personally are feeling a lot of conditions on when it will look like a flower that you're happy with and when it doesn't. Mm-hmm. I'm very like, oh, generally it's flowerish, super happy. So my happy space comes in earlier. What I will tell you is that lighter petals will be on the outside. So as the flower goes out, it gets lighter and lighter, right? Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to send lightning through our community like talking about Labyrinth, The Dark Crystal, or Neverending Story. I could name a few that just sort of, you know.
That we all just have so much love and passion for. But don't we? Mm-hmm. Just continue to find those little moments, those magic moments. And you can see it's just through these shadows and these little elements that we start to see our flowers really come into being. And I'm going to get a little more yellow involved and a lot more white. Just pushing these little guys around. It's not that bad. Let's give her a little cute bouquet. You can always come back with lighter colors or darker colors pretty easily. See how we go in? Just not over until it's over.
Now, the original painting was called?
This is Mrs. Wilton by Singer Sargent.
Mrs. Wilton. I would like to know who her seamstress was. Quite talented individual.
I can tell you right now she was a woman of wealth.
Got some. Well, she got a painting done, so that was not a cheap.
And by quite a known and beloved artist, right? So, you know, it's like getting it by Lord Leighton in the day that he was popular. You know, so sometimes it's like you can also, we weren't coming up artists, we were like the artists. Got some nice little flowers in there, just playing with them as we want. Come back with a little white. I think that always adds a little bit of While I'm here, I'm going to take some yellow. And we'll go ahead and pop just a bit of that. And I'm going to go into my white, but I haven't rinsed out my yellow. I'm just going to go right into my white. And that's how we get the ring.
That's a good looking ring.
It is. It's a great looking ring. It's just...
What you doing there?
I'm just making sure that my shadows are good.
Ah. You have painted the ring.
Well, and you can always touch in, if you want, a little of your ultramarine blue.
Ooh, Heather says John Singer Sargent was Mrs. W's cousin.
Excellent.
Well, maybe that's how he got wrangled into the deal. She's like, no. I bought those brushes.
That would
come on over.
Make a lot of sense, to be real honest, because that's how it be like that, right? With artists, like, I bought your brushes. Paint for me. I could do the Dance Monkey song over, but it's like Paint Monkey. So I'm just mixing a little burnt sienna, a little cad yellow, a little green, just to make sure that some of our leaves, right?
Mrs. Wilton Phillips is the name of the picture.
Not related to Wilson Phillips. Anyway, guys, guess what? It's over.
Oh, no. You got to sign it.
I got to sign it. So I am going to put out a little fluid paint because that just makes my signing easier. In this particular painting, I do in white. I hope you enjoyed this a great deal.
I did.
Thank you, everybody, for your patience about the having to restream over 2 days. But I actually think it helped to have the grid on one day as something that you can do in if you're trying to work on drawing, giving everyone a chance to do the traceable and see the PDF step-by-step mini book. Because that helps a lot, does it not?
It does.
It does. All right. Going to go ahead and come here, and we'll just give this a little sign.
Well, you're saying that Jenna was saying that yesterday before the chat went out, she wanted to say thank you for rekindling her 20-year love of painting. And she walked away from it 20 years ago, but your show has brought it back into her heart and into art. So thank you.
Oh, so good to have you back in the art family. That is not an uncommon thing to happen. Actually, people take hiatuses from art and then come back and go, oh yeah, this is my favorite. Oh my gosh, that snow is crazy out there. I don't even know why you bothered to shovel. It's already
So they would
covered
deliver. So now I have 2 inches less of snow to plow the next time.
This is John's life. Do the show, plow the snow. Do the show, plow the snow. Tuesday evening, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah. Well,
Come by and join us for Frida Kahlo. It's going to be really great. We're going to talk a lot about Frida. There'll be a bunch of really fun stuff. And we're going to experiment with a new thing we're going to try to do.
What new thing we going to do?
We're going to try to capture the steps during the painting like we used to, but the team's going to help me get the information. So a PDF. So the Tuesday classes can kind of have those as well.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Watercolor Wednesday is back this upcoming Wednesday with its new watercolor palette, which will be set for 2021. You know, watch for that information. We'll have a video coming up about the studio, like what 2021 is about, what materials I think you just absolutely have to have, what needs to be in your studio. We update that every few years, so it's just due for an update, especially for this year. You're looking at me like all concerned with your arms crossed. Did something bad happen with snow?
Oh, no. I just realized I need a skid steer. I got to find one.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, and that... so thank you for the patronage, because apparently we need a skid steer. I don't know what that is.
For so many reasons,
for so
not
many
just
reasons.
snow.
Not just snow. Okay. So that
too.
will be coming up and more of that. Please take advantage of the resources. And remember, I do have these all on Amazon affiliate links, and that's wonderful. But use that website we're recommending to make sure your prices are what they should be. And let Amazon know if they're jacking up the prices too high for you as a consumer, because I think there should be some price capping there. That probably doesn't make me popular. Cap. That I just think it should
Come
be.
to our website.
Come to our website. We have a shop.
We'll be putting more and more stuff available. It's a great way to support us if you can. We're not saying you have to, but if you would like to, the store is a wonderful way.
Emoji Club is a good way to support us too.
Yeah.
And have a goofy time. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering how this works with Emoji Club. So
how does it work? Sherpa, tell us how it
YouTube is
works.
slow at giving us new emojis.
Yeah, slow at everything.
So now we have like emojis maybe for limited time, like John's birthday had limited time emojis.
They were
that we
timed
did keep
emojis.
2. Sometimes emojis will age out and come back. We'll have emoji votes. I think we just got enough members for a new emoji. If we get to 300 members, I don't know, we'll do something funny for you guys, probably in the community tab to celebrate. Be good to yourself. Stay warm, stay cozy, stay cool wherever you are in the world. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your health. Take care of your community with your choices. Be good to each other, because it's crazy out there and we need to be nice to get through it. And I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.